And we're live. Welcome back to the 2018 Canadian Outdoor Singles Championships. I'm Jake Shuknik, and I'm joined today by Brandon Watson. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm good. I'm good.
We got a fantastic match in store for you with Pat Bird from Alberta playing against Christy Grahame from British Columbia. This should be a very quick game, as I'm told Christy's a very fast player. And if you see that, just very quickly on the mat, hands in the pockets, walking away.
Yep. Actually, I think when my brother and I were playing him in the pairs earlier this week, he actually went on the mat with a cup of water in his hand and delivered a bowl right on the jack.
Christy. He does very well at every event he goes to for the past 10 years. He's hovering around somewhere with mixed pairs or senior triples or whatever it is he's playing in. So Pat Bird's got the purpley pink bowls, and Christy has the, I don't know if those are even black, just a super dark blue maybe?
Yeah, I think they're kind of like a navy.
Navy blue?
Yeah.
So you played with your brother in the pairs. How'd that go?
Yeah, it went okay. We had some good games. Really, the only game I wish had been a little bit closer was the game we played against Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia A, but otherwise I can't complain. All the games were close for the most part. It's interesting, the greens here are totally different than the way they've been running the rest of the year, so almost didn't feel at home.
I overheard David Kalem saying that it was actually the exact opposite of home field advantage. It was actually home field disadvantage because all the Regina players were expecting it to do one thing and it's doing the other, which I think is actually kind of a good thing that it's not what you're expecting. Because if you're expecting it to be incredibly slow, I'd much rather have a...
Yeah, incredibly slow and very spongy, so glad we got that under control.
Yeah, no, the greens have actually looked pretty good, probably around that 11, maybe 11 and a half second mark, which is very, very playable. I think most players in Canada are probably used to something like this.
Yep. Unless you're from Regina, of course.
Yeah, that too. And so that looks like probably 2 for Christy.
Yes.
Right off the get-go. It's funny, I was talking to Pat at lunch there, as we didn't stream the game before this, just so we could have a quick lunch break. Once he takes off that jacket, he's wearing a white shirt underneath as well, so he's all in white. And he said the reason for that is he listened to one of the live streams we did of him last year, where he was wearing a colorful get-up and said, "Oh, you'll never catch Pat Bird dead in all white." And so just to prove us wrong, he's wearing all white here today underneath that jacket. Even the white cap, too.
Yeah.
Ah, what a guy.
Oh, Pat.
Fresh off his gold medal from the men's pairs yesterday. He'll be looking to keep on trucking.
Yeah, that was a cold game, or cold temperature to play the games in.
Yeah,
Kind of miserable.
You were stuck up on the scaffolding running the cameras, so I can only imagine how cold you must have been.
I was all right once I got an umbrella, but at first it was pretty chilly.
Coming up well short on that first one from Christy. Can't speak for all of the games. Aside from the one we streamed, when I was looking around at A deck, B deck, C deck, almost all the games for the men's that first round were incredibly close. I can't believe how many games were 18-18 or 21-19 or whatever the final score ended up being, but they were all right there. There weren't too many blowouts. I don't think any of the games are really blowouts.
No, on A, I was watching a few of the games on A. They all seem pretty close.
Did you find much of a difference in speed from A deck to B deck to C deck?
Well, I think they were all pretty good. Other than that, what was it? Maybe third day, I think. Carter and I, we started on C, and that's right after the city had flooded the green, so it was good and slow. And then we went to A, and there was probably a couple second difference. So it took a while to adjust to that. But no, I think otherwise they've been about the same speed. I can't speak for D, though. I didn't play a game on D.
Right. I'm told that a couple of greens experts were out here. I don't know if it was Lyle Adams or Ken Olsvik or whoever it was, said that D deck's actually the most flat, true, laser leveled surface here, which is which is interesting because when you go out there, there's two rinks on it that look really good, and the rest looks like it needs some work. But
yeah, no kidding.
But it's not easy to maintain a 4-green facility. I can only imagine how many hours it would take just to mow 4 greens. Like that's a huge endeavor.
Yeah. Well, and D Green had a bit of a hard year last year as far as we had a light post fall onto it and in a windstorm and some maintenance issues as far as that went. And this year the city's been trying to bring it back, and they got 2 rinks out of it, which I was surprised. We all thought that was going to be kind of a lost cause.
Mm-hmm.
But
no, I was kind of taken aback when I heard that a light post fell over last year, thinking, oh man, that could have been terrible if you're just bowling and suddenly a light post falls on you.
Yeah.
Oof.
Well, and it was quiet on the way down until it hit the ground, so nobody would have
even heard it or thought to.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Christie's bowling up a storm here the first 2 ends. He's right on the jack there.
Starting very strong.
And the women's singles on the rink next door, I can see Fran Scott from Saskatchewan is down 15-9 to Jan Robinson. Further on down, 18-11 for Harry Patulli over Bev Robinson. And I can't quite see the scoreboard after that. I think Manitoba's Betty Van Willingham's up 17-14.
Okay. Looks like Pat snuck a
got a second shot in there now.
Yeah. Yeah. Should be second shot out of that.
So that should just be another 1 to Mr. Grahame. Making it a quick 3-zip.
Mm-hmm.
As always, you can get in touch with us on Facebook or Twitter at BCB Bowls. Feel free to ask Brandon every question you can think of.
For sure. I'll do my best to answer them.
I was curious what Christie was doing, just taking a walk down the green, but I guess Mason dropped a spray chalk.
Yeah.
That might have been tricky to try to bowl to. Avoid the spray chalk on your way down.
Little speed bump.
I was caught totally off guard when I saw Mason in an umpire shirt. I thought he was wearing it just for jokes. I didn't realize he's actually an umpire and is working to be a level 2.
Yeah. Mason got, I believe, Sydney and also Mike Boyd. They all are now umpires. So that's good for this province at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the more the better.
Exactly.
Ooh, Christie's first one's in the ditch. Reminiscent of opening bowl of the opening ceremonies there. You at least managed to keep the jack on. It was Jordan that threw the bowl in the ditch.
It was looking pretty close. I was expecting it to be a lot heavier than it was when I last played. No, it was
quick.
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
And Pat is following suit, and there she goes.
Yep.
Last bowl on the green standing wins. Oh, I think Pat's actually changed his shirt from when I saw him at lunchtime. I guess he was fed up with being all white. Wanted some pink color in there.
Tried to prove you wrong yet again.
Yeah, I guess. He knew I would say it on the broadcast, so. What a guy. All because he's a lefty. So Christie managed to keep one on there. We'll see if Pat can outdraw it, but you really can't be much further than the jack there, or else it'll just sink on down the hill.
This one's looking pretty good, though.
Yeah, that'll be number 1.
Yep.
Well played, Pat. So Christie has a very similar delivery to what Rob Steffen had in the first round, where he takes the step and then backswing and forward swing, so it's all arm.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's interesting just because I feel like on a slow green that wouldn't serve him well, but yeah, prove me wrong. Excellent shot there from Christie. Just grabbed the jack on his way through.
Yep.
I think that's probably pretty close to as far as you can get without trickling off into the ditch. From that point on, it slopes down a bit.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to roll much past that. See what Pat has here for an answer.
Got a very smooth delivery, Mr. Bird.
Mm-hmm.
In the ballpark.
Oh, that was close.
Into the ditch she goes. This is a very interesting end here. If I was Christie, I would have been tempted to just pick Pat's bull and lay for 3. But I guess drawing for 2 will do too.
Mm-hmm.
Wowza.
Yeah, that actually does surprise me because when Carter and I were playing him in the pairs, he was throwing quite a few drives and he hit probably every single one of them. It was so impressive.
Yowza. Do you think Pat will throw some weight at this?
It's hard to tell. I can never tell if Pat's lining up to throw weight or not.
When he does throw weight, it's not super over the top weight either. It's just sort of controlled through the head. So
it looks like that.
And again, I think he was looking to find a friend on his way through, but he's just outside.
Yeah.
So that'll be another 2 for Mr. Christie. Mr. Christie, you make good cookies. 5-zip to start this singles game. Lengthy battle there over at the far end, women's singles. Rainbow Long is up 18-17 over Betty Van Wallingham. They've played 22 ends because they've actually got the ends marked on the scoreboard there.
Yet.
Not that that matters whatsoever.
Well, it's just kind of interesting to see sometimes.
Mm-hmm. So at the end of our last broadcast, I was expecting this game to start around 1. And it's not even 1 o'clock here yet, and we're already up 5-0. I'm curious if 1 o'clock will roll around, we could have Christie up to 10. Game's halfway done before people are even tuning in.
Never know. If he keeps bowling like he has, could be a good possibility of that.
See if Pat can lock one on here. He's in the neighborhood.
Yeah, he's close.
In the ballpark, sir.
That's a good shot there.
I feel like Pat's always hovering around at the finals for the outdoor singles the past 5 years. Always close to a medal.
Mm-hmm.
Last year was sort of a strange exception where he faced John Bjornsson in either the round of 8 or round of 16. I can't remember what it was. And that game went all the way to the end. But Pat and John normally find each other at some point, whether it's indoor singles or outdoor singles. So I would not be surprised if, now that John's not competing in this, if Pat makes his way through to the semis or finals again. Pretty consistent there, Mr. Grahame. Probably a measure with Pat's off to the side on a more direct angle.
Yeah.
Very good weight there. No, that maybe as well. I don't know. The way that Christie walks away from the mat, looks away. I guess that was a bull he didn't really like. Thought it was a bad one, but he does a similar tactic even when he does throw a good bull. Makes you think that every bull he doesn't care about, but just how he is. Pat's coming down to take a look. In case you are tuning in now that it is 1 o'clock, I'm having a chat here with Brandon Watson from Saskatchewan.
Mm-hmm.
Local techie here who's done a fantastic job of making sure we've got the best internet here. This is hands down the best time we've done streaming since I've been here. Able to bring it to you, and I think we're streaming in 1080p or something like that, so 10 times better than what we've ever been able to before.
That's good.
Probably could be doing HD too if I wanted to. Might have to test that out later on in the day.
Yeah, for sure.
See if we can get that going. Yeah. Been playing around with the new tech here with a little bit of split screen action, which seems to be working out okay. Wouldn't be surprised if Pat's looking to grab the white on his way through. A little nice little trail for 3.
Oh, close.
Yikes. That would have been the perfect trail, too.
So I'd assume they're going to bring the measure out here. It must be. Oh,
Christie's saying 1 for him, and I think Pat's confirming, and yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Closer than, or not as close, I guess, as we thought.
Yeah.
So they're playing the Aussie New Zealand way. Pat just picked up the mat and brought it down with him, and Christie just said, "What are you doing?" That's how they play down Australia and New Zealand. What have you? They just use 1 mat, so it's very strange for them to see 2 mats being used at all. It's customary to just use the 1.
Yeah. I know I've certainly done things like that in the past as well. Just kind of, you're not thinking and you just do. Then you realize halfway through, oh, what the heck was that?
Pretty good weight there. It's interesting how different it looks from our end compared to the camera angle. From the camera angle, that looks really close, but we're down here pretty close to where the mat is, where they're playing from, and that looks miles away.
Yeah. Like that almost looks from where we're sitting around the 3-foot mark.
Yeah. Yeah. And Pat just rested just inside it too, so deceiving, but also probably good for both, or at least for Pat anyway, to see it looks like there's so much room. Not really under a whole lot of pressure when it looks that far away.
Yeah.
Do you prefer bowls with dimples or that are dimpleless?
Well, I think Pat's using arrows, and he's used that new Z-Scoop.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like as well. I feel like I'm holding a bit of smaller size bowl than I actually am, so I feel like I have good control with that. But I like a bowl with a grip on it. I feel too out of control when it's
just
plain.
Smooth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yourself?
I've always used bowls with dimples, but I think I would like a bowl without dimples to be smooth. Like, I don't really use the grips. My thumb's down on further on the side anyway, so the grips don't really mean anything for me anyway. Just kind of a useless feature for me, I guess. Excellent bowl there from Mr. Bird.
Very good.
Christie only wanted to walk up halfway. He saw what he wanted to see.
Probably be looking to do a similar thing to what Pat just did.
Oh, Christie's throwing some heat. Wasn't expecting that.
No, I wasn't either. And
wow.
He got it. See, that's what he was doing all game to Carter and I.
Wow. There were so many holes there. I did not expect him to be throwing heat at that.
I can honestly say I didn't either. Christie's another one of the people he gets on the mat and he can throw a lot of weight and you don't see it coming. All of a sudden there's a bowl flying down the green and
unbelievable. Roger Smith's asking, we've both played across Canada and beyond, who's been your favorite roommate and who snores the loudest? Care to answer that first? Favorite roommate who snores the loudest?
I've always just been with Carter, so.
All right, fair enough. So therefore, by process of elimination,
Carter, yeah,
snores the loudest, hands down. All right.
Yeah.
That's interesting because when you say played across Canada, now you're making me think of like when I traveled internationally, went to Hong Kong, Australia, or you know, what have you. Now I'm thinking of that as opposed to just sort of traveling around Ontario. Rooming with Dylan and rooming with Cody have been stellar times. Cody is hands down the loudest snorer I've ever roomed with. When he gets tired, oh man. Remember one year at WOBA, Trevor had to shout at him to stop snoring so much, and surprisingly he listened. But yeah, no, that's a good question. Who's been my favorite roommate? I will say when we were in China, Daryl was a really good roommate because the beds are so close together that you're more or less almost in the same bed. They're so small and so close together that you have. Yep. It's like a 6 foot by 6 foot square room, and that's all you get. So it's you get to know someone really well when you're that close together.
Yeah, no kidding.
So another couple there.
Yeah, that dip, that 5 foot dip at the back of the green there, sure is making it hard when you're having to draw in like Pat had to do there. You don't want to be in, so you're trying to be pretty careful with the weight. I know there's some rinks on this green that are okay. They don't have much of a dip at all, and some of them that are pretty steep.
Nice to have you with us, Daryl. He just texted me saying I'm an amazing roommate. You know it. I got to room with him last year too in Victoria, and after we'd both been to Nova Scotia for the juniors, and then 4 days later out in Victoria. First day we landed, I think we fell asleep by like 7 p.m. because we were just exhausted from traveling coast to coast. But interesting question. I think Christie's coming up fairly short on this one. That's a whoops. Pat's coming up short here too. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Matt's up a little pace, but
I don't think he's going to be short with this. Oh.
Well, that worked out okay for him.
Yeah.
That looks like could be 2 there now. Pat's looking for the white, just sailed through. Uncharacteristic to see Pat struggling so hard here. Having a real rough go at trying to get his weight down, but Christie's definitely taking advantage.
I did the same thing again.
Needed a little more weight if you're going to do that again.
Yeah.
I don't think that was quite into the count, but consistent. Really likes that line, I guess.
Yep.
Rink next door, Jan Robinson's up 15-14 over Fran Scott.
Yes, Fran's been coming back.
And rink on the other side of that, Harriet Patuli's up 20-12 over Bev. Good question, Roger. In Hong Kong, were your feet hanging off the end of the bed when you slept? In Hong Kong, no. We actually had some... Or no, wait, yeah, Hong Kong they were. It was in China that they weren't. In China they had really long beds, but they were basically made of wood. So you see them all made nicely, you go to jump on the bed and you break your back.
Wake up the next morning stiff as can be, or were you ready to go?
What's that?
Did you wake up the next morning stiff as could be, or were you ready to go?
Yeah, definitely stiff. Definitely stiff. So it's a quick 9-0 start here.
Mm-hmm.
So we're having some technical difficulties with our scoring app right now, so it'll likely be a little while before we can post scores and standings. Might not be too late tonight, early tomorrow. We'll do our best to maybe take a picture of what we can write down on paper and post that to social media. Stay tuned, we'll get that done later on in the day. Question for you, Brandon, here. What is it like having a brother that's traveling the same path as you in bowls? You're both going to NAC. What are you most excited for coming up? Hashtag Bowling Brothers.
Well, Carter and I, we both gel really well, so it's always exciting that we get to do a lot of the same things at the same time. We get to share the experiences. I know both he and I are really looking forward to NAC, so can't wait for that to come up. Other than that, I mean, we're just about, or much past NAC. We're going to be shut down here for the winter. But
in case anybody's listening and doesn't know what the NAC is, it's the North American Challenge, which is a test match type event between Canada and USA. Happens every other year. We take turns hosting it, so it's in Laguna Hills this year, down in California. We send a team of 10 men, 10 women, split up into teams of 5, really, Team Jarvis and Team Fulkins, named after legendary bowlers from Canada and USA. Don't know if I see much more than a draw here for Pat.
yeah,
Given that he only has one bowl on the green, definitely can't play too aggressive at it.
no, that was a good bowl by Christie there. Kind of stopped on Pat's and rolled it into the ditch. He's got all the backing, so. Not sure how many it would be. I'd say it's one for sure for Christie, but don't know if that second one's in or out.
I have a feeling once Pat finally does count, assuming he does, that we'll see quite the change in mat placement.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's quite the result he wanted. Might have been enough. Pat's bringing the mat down again, as you can see. Walking around, taking a few looks. Christie's picked up the mat there, so that makes me think it's for sure one for Christie. But
yeah. Yeah, I'd say it's.
Yep, one to Mr. Grahame.
Oh, it was 2.
2 even, wow.
Yeah. I thought Pat might have snuck in there for the
from
second shot, but
thought he had 2. Apparently not. Have Brandon and Carter ever had a fist fight? What over and who won?
Well, we've never had a fist fight, but I'll tell you the days of me winning any wrestling matches against him are gone. He outweighs me out. What would be the way to put it? He's taller than me now, and my time and being able to win those kind of things have come and gone. He puts me on the ground when he wants to, and that's pretty much the way it goes. But never a fist fight.
So Pat is just getting right befuddled here. You can see him on the mat throwing his bowl up and down in the air because Christie's dropped 2 short ones in his line.
Yeah.
And I think Christie's having a good chuckle back behind there. He knew exactly what he was doing, just confounding Mr. Bird. And Pat, on the other hand, is coming up well short. In terms of head games, I think Christie's doing a really good job of getting inside Pat's head here. 2 short, and now throws some weight to try to pound them in. Finds the port. Don't know if that's good enough for shot.
I'm not sure if that's going to be it.
And Pat's back to the other hand now, seeing if he can just find that same port.
Looks like he did.
He did.
Oh.
Found every port. Sticking around, though. That's a pretty good weight to make sure your bowl stays on. Christie's coming up short here. Shaped up to be kind of an ugly head here. I think it's just 1 for Christie at the moment. And Pat has remained on this backhand of his.
I think the heads have been, or have had a tendency playing, I guess that would be north, back towards us, to be a little bit wider or more open, I guess.
A little more loose, yeah. And with that last bowl there, I believe Pat Bird has just got himself on the board.
We'll see what happens here with the mat and the jack placement.
The fact that Christie passed it to Pat is, yeah, definitely confirms that.
Yeah.
Pat Bird on the board. 11-1. And just like that, Pat's bringing the mat right up.
Kind of expected something like that.
Absolutely. My experience with Pat is that he likes to play with the mat up quite a bit. So, not surprised there. Even if he wasn't losing 11-1, I still would have expected it up there a fair bit. So Fran Scott's taking the lead over there, 16-15 over Jan.
Yeah. She might have ended up tying it now in this end.
Right next door, looks like Harriet Patulli took the win. Didn't quite update the scoreboard, but I believe that would be 21-12.
Yeah.
Over Bev Robinson. Pat's opening bowl there is through. We'll see how Christie handles this with the mat way up, if Pat's befuddled him or if he can figure this out. Well inside on that. Similar weight.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw Pat's reaction there on the mat, but put both hands up in the air saying, hey, I got one to stop. I got one there, that's okay. Good to see he's still having a fun time out there on the green.
Yeah, for sure. See if he does this again.
I think you might be mistaken on that question there, Roger. He's asking, how did Brandon like his majors experience? His first, I believe. This wasn't your first majors, was it?
No.
You played with Keith 1 year in
Yeah,
triples, yeah?
Carter and I were with Keith in the triples. I can't remember what year, but it was in Willowdale, and then we made it with
Yeah.
Keith, Bo Koss, Carter, and myself in the fours the next year in Edmonton. So
Right.
this
Yeah.
would be our third.
Third, yeah. How did you find this one ranked in comparison? Now that you're down to pairs, it was just you and your brother, as opposed to playing on a team with whether it's Keith or Bo or whoever else.
It was nice. It was nice to play with Carter. Just our play styles are kind of polar opposites, so we we fit well into the positions that we play. It was also hard just because host club, a lot of work to do, and sometimes it was hard to detach from that and go into play mode.
Yeah.
Or game mode rather than.
Yeah, and I know exactly what you're saying. That is one of the trickiest things in sport. If you ever have a game at your home facility, it's really hard to take yourself away from running the day-to-day that you normally do or helping out however you would. Actually, just focus on the game. It's a lot easier when you travel, if you're out of province, out of club, out of whatever.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. Carter and I would be saying back and forth, oh, it'll be nice. We get to sleep in our own beds and kind of have a bit of routine still, but it wasn't really the case. A lot of work to do, and
if anything, it makes the days longer because you can drive home later. So then there's more you're doing later at night, or you're showing up earlier to help set up, or what have you.
Yeah, and you always find that those few things that, I could adjust this, or I could do this, or I could help out with that, and you end up staying later than you planned on.
Well, I will say it's greatly appreciated, because I've certainly appreciated the help with moving all the scaffolding around and the tents and everything else. So big thank you to that.
For sure.
I think Christy's just inside there.
Yeah, so that's...
Oh, beautiful.
I'll just put that in the...
Yeah. See if I can take a picture of the standings here or at least the results, and get those posted online. Awesome.
It says cents.
Yeah.
But, I'll put that in the clubhouse so people can see.
Absolutely. So I should be able to get you some results posted to our Facebook page here shortly. Bear with me. I'm going to stop talking for a little bit while I try to get this figured out.
Looks like they called an umpire. I'd say that's 2 for Pat, for sure.
What's interesting here is that Mason's actually an umpire. But
yeah.
since he's the marker, I guess don't want him to, don't trust him to, don't need an outside source, I guess.
Yep. Like I said, I think we mentioned this before, but it's nice to see some young umpires too.
Yes, it is. Excellent, thank you. Are you a faster player or a slower player or somewhere in between?
I am a slow player.
Okay.
Anybody who's had any experience playing me, they know, especially in singles, very, very slow.
Very methodical.
Yeah. Well, Michael Patulli, he's both Carter's and my coach. made sure that he taught us to, when we were quite young, to go down to the head after our third bowl, have a look, don't fly through the game, make sure you're going at a decent pace. I guess I took that to a bit of an extreme, and that's just the way I've been ever since. But
well, the reason I ask is just because Christie's a very quick player, and Pat's no slouch either. They've both been playing along a decent clip, but this umpire call here has just more or less put a stop in the game while they measure this out. So I'm curious if the change in pace or even this little bit of a delay will have an impact on either player, as Pat's picking up one, maybe even two here to try to claw back into the game. A big break like this can sometimes really throw you off, even if whether you're winning or losing, just get you out of the groove or back into the groove.
Yeah, exactly. Especially on a more extreme level, whenever the game stopped due to weather, it seems like there's always a reverse in roles of who's comes out stronger. Really changes things up.
Question for both of us here. When playing first past the post in most games, not all, there are momentum swings. How many? I say 3. Good question. How many momentum swings do you think there are in a game of singles where it's points, so first to 21?
That's kind of tough. I'd say 3 kind of sounds right, but it really depends on the two players too. I know if you have players with a similar speed of play, you can have quite a few different changes, but I think if you're polar opposites, changes in momentum are maybe a little bit less frequent.
Yeah, I feel like that's tricky. I feel like it's somewhere between 2 and 4. Obviously, it depends on the game, who's playing. If you're throwing someone 21-1, then you can't really say there's much of a momentum swing at all. But most games that are going to be close, I feel like there's almost always a minimum of 2. Someone gets off to a hot start, and then someone plays catch up, and there's 2 right there. But there are many close games where they ebb and flow, and you have 3 or 4. I don't know if I could say there's more than 5 or even 5 in many games.
Yeah. Well, I guess there's always a couple of those ends of game where one player is a little bit more loose, but the next end they kind of come back. So do you call that a momentum swing? I'm not sure, but
Crashing around.
Yeah. Kind of put Pat's bowls in a bit of a better position, or at least the one. I know you were saying earlier when we were waiting for the umpires to make their decision, if one player was going to come back stronger than the other, but it looks like they're both having a pretty good end right now.
That break might have been just what they needed to make it much closer. Bear with me as I'm trying to get some results posted so that people can see how things went. I think we finally got to. Yeah, there you go. So if you're on our Facebook page, head over to Bulls Canada Bowling Ground on Facebook, and you'll be able to see the results of the first round of outdoor singles with the men.
So Christie there, he put the jack in the ditch. So Pat ended up getting the jack, but looked like Christie would have been right on the jack if with his first bowl there, if it hadn't rolled in.
With me while I update the scoreboard. There we go. I think we got a tuner in from Ontario, Sarah Van Stein, saying, "Hi Brandon, how did your mom do?"
Oh, you know what? I didn't get to see the finish of that game. It's on the other side of the club from where we are right now, so I can't say that I know the answer.
And Pat's just trickled off into the ditch there. Currently 1 for Christie right now. So John, you just played on this rink. How did you find it played?
It's good.
Yeah?
Good rink, yeah.
One hand preferable over the other?
I like to play all four.
Forehand going this way?
That's what I played, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm left-handed. Everybody else, most people's backhands.
So for Pat Bird, his forehand going this way is what John played last. Well, I guess the first round.
Yeah, I played ditch side. Forehand each way, hung a little bit, but
Yeah. I know this is the rink I played Charlie Taylor on in the provincial singles, and I could not find the line. No, it didn't go well at all. I couldn't find the line at all, and Charlie was right on.
So looking at the results from round 1, it looks like Bob Van Wellingham beat Christie Grahame 21-18 in the first game. And Pat Bird beat Steve Ogden 21-12. So Pat's 1-0 and Christie's 0-1.
Looks like we got a couple new games starting on the screen.
Mm-hmm. Further on down there, I see Ernie Mead and Roy Reege. Roy's already up 7-zip from lots of things.
Yep.
Terry O'Neill and Gary Boutineau just starting up. And it looks like Jan Robinson's up 18-16 over Fran Scott. Currently 12-5 in this game. I wonder if Pat's going to throw some weight at this. The way he's sort of rocking his arm back and forth. I think he is. I think he's getting ready to let fly.
Yeah, a little bit.
Controlled weight, and I think he's outside. He didn't like this at all.
Oh.
Almost got a result out of it, but that's going to be 3 for Christie Grahame.
Yep.
Yikes. $15-5. Is Christie much of a talker when you play against him? Have you guys played against Christie in singles? No? Quiet guy?
I haven't played in singles. I played against him in the mixed pairs last year. He's quiet, yeah, but really nice. I don't think a person gets much nicer on the green than Christie.
$18-16. Jan Robinson over Fran Scott. I haven't really seen any of the jacks thrown just to the hog line. Even when Pat did count and got the mat, he brought the mat up and then still kept playing it close to the tee. I'm wondering if that would have made a difference, or if that'll be a tactic he can try to use later on, just because it seems as though he's really struggling with that last 6 feet. Bit of a slope downhill. As he throws a relatively heavy one. I'm not sure if that one's going to stop. Just
he's got
almost exactly on the tee.
Yeah.
Well past. Coming this way a few ends back, Christie threw beautiful pull there.
Yeah.
Just 2 short bowls just to get in Pat's way, and it really got in Pat's head. He has since changed tactics now and said, I'll just put it on the jack, apparently.
Yep.
Pat's still sticking with his backhand.
Okay, back to a question earlier. I guess my mom is currently up in that game. Do you know what the score is, John? 17-9. So
there you go, Sarah, in case you're still listening.
Yeah. Go, Mom.
Christy Grahame, what a bowl.
Yep.
What a bowl. Pat Bird, are you firing or are you trying to draw close?
Yeah, and I can never really tell.
He's firing. And well inside. So Christy, what do you do on this one? Do you try to get to the tee? Because Pat has 2 there.
Yeah.
And right into the head. That makes a bit of a juicier target now. Pat's coming down to take a look, probably just to hold his breath, slow down. Yeesh. Turning point here. Pat makes this, he could count 2. If he misses, he drops 3. 5-point swing. I'm not sure if you can really draw that off anymore. I think he's got to throw weight again.
Yeah, I think I'd be inclined to throw at it again. I know Carter would.
Especially after he threw weight on your last one. And yeah, you can see him practice swinging back there. He's visualizing how he wants to throw weight at this. Sarah saying, yeah, Janet. Here we go. Missed it all.
Just on the other side this time.
So that's 3 to Christy Grahame to make it 18-5. As always, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook or Twitter. Ask us some questions. We got Brandon Watson on the mic. He's more than happy to answer all of your burning questions about the Regina Lawn Bowling Club. Or how to play a perfect game of singles. He'll be able to tell you all about that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That perfect game of singles, that's why I'm sitting here right now.
It is a strange feeling to be sitting and not playing, that's for sure. And I think Christy just threw it into the ditch, and Pat's going to bring the mat right up.
That'd be a second time.
I'm not sure how I feel about this strategy, because Pat's been struggling with the last 6 feet.
Yeah.
Going into the ditch. I think that's almost habit now more than anything else, is that he just likes to bring the mat up.
We'll see here if he can lock a couple on.
Pretty good roll, and Christy doesn't even care about measuring. Make sure if it's legal. Papa Raj asking another question. On a fours team or pairs, is it an advantage to have lefties and righties? For depending on the rink in Canada, sometimes lefties get it, other times righties have the line. So is it an advantage to have lefties and righties?
I would say it probably is. I know I've been playing, I'm left-handed, so I play a lot of righties, and there's times where I struggle with the line.
Mm-hmm.
I can't hit it. There's times where the righties struggle with the line. They can't hit it.
I would argue that it's almost irrelevant as long as you have a good lead. If your lead's locking them on there, then they can pick which hand or which side they're going to play. So it doesn't matter if they're lefty or righty, because at least one side of the rink should be playable, I would hope.
No kidding.
In which case, it doesn't really matter if it's lefty or righty there. That's far more important in a pairs game where the lead can have a bigger impact. But I guess if you're skipping on a fours team or playing vice, there's a lot of clutter in front and you're stuck playing one hand and it's a tricky line, then yeah, that might be an advantage, but it could also be a disadvantage too. Not a bad place from Pat. Still think it's one Christie off to the side. Inside rub, not quite. Coming up short. Pat's going to chase this bull down. Wonder if that means it's good or if it's too far through. Looks pretty good to me.
Yeah,
that should be number one.
Yep.
Christie quickly on the mat as ever. Just about. Just about. So Pat Bird is lying one. Has probably about a mat length to draw another one. Camler Friends is saying all good bowlers are lefties. Nice to have you on the stream, Cam. So now's the time to start poking fun of Cam because he's listening. For those of you who don't know him, he's on our national team. Played fairly well at the Commonwealth Games not too long ago. All the way down in Enfield, Nova Scotia. Pat's folded his arms. I don't think he likes this. Yo. Wow. Almost gave that away.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes. So that'll be one for Mr. Bird. Make it 18-6.
We'll see what he does with the mat here.
Well, I mean, technically it did work. He did count by having the mat way up. So we'll see if he sticks with it.
What do you guys think of the strategy of carrying just one mat up and down the green? Do you think that's a good strategy?
Yeah, in case you can't hear that, John Fatuli behind me is asking, do you think it's a good strategy to carry one mat up and forth down the green? I think it's a great idea, especially if you're playing with people who are cognizant of it. It can pick up the pace quite a bit, especially with Pat playing just to the hog line. Saves him from having to walk all the way down to the back of the bank and get the mat. On the other hand, though, if you're playing against a decent opponent and they have it out ready and waiting for you, then it's the same either way, just about. Personally, I think I'm a big fan of playing with one mat. How about you?
I've never done it other than in a practice, so I'm not really sure.
John, your thoughts on that?
Well, I haven't seen it very often yet, so I thought it was interesting that he's playing with one mat. So just wanted to see if it was maybe more the norm elsewhere.
It's definitely the norm in New Zealand and Australia, I'm told. I was asking Terry Scott about this all throughout the week, and I guess down in New Zealand, it's customary to play with one mat, and what they do down there is if you throw the second last bowl, it's expected that you hang around by the mat end and pick up the mat once the other player throws their last bowl.
Okay.
If you happen to have chased your bowl down, it's actually expected that you're the one that walks down to get it if you're the second last bowler. So whoever has the last bowl, it's not their responsibility. It's the second last bowler's responsibility to get the mat, which is, I thought, interesting, but I guess that's just the norm, and everybody abides by it down there, which is...
Well, I guess that would mean you put the mat down, you pick it up, right?
Yeah, I guess that's exactly what that means, more or less, yeah. But yeah, he was kind of surprised to see people using two mats here, whether that's the team game or singles. I'm wondering if Pat's picked that up because he's played in the Australian Open a few times, and I'd be guessing that's probably what they do there. So he's been down under once or twice. And when you're there, you just pick up on some habits, I would guess.
So if they did that in the fours, who would be the one taking the mat down?
That's a really good question.
Would the lead walk down the green, pick the mat up, and bring it back, or would the skip bring it?
That's a really good question. I'm wondering if the skip would walk halfway down with it, or if they would just use 2 mats then in that case. I didn't actually ask Terry that. I wish I had before he flew home.
Question for next time.
Yeah, next time that Terry tours. Pretty good bowl there from Christie. Might be enough if it falls in. Pat's taking a second to reassess. Been playing that one hand the entire game. Kevin Dusablon chiming in here saying never in Manitoba have they picked the mat, but in Alberta it's the normal thing to do. Most of the time we just take 1 mat to play singles. So I guess that's an Alberta thing as well. Interesting. Thanks for letting us know there, Kev. I'd be tempted to say that if you're playing against an opponent that's cognizant of it, using 2 wouldn't really matter because they would just reach behind the bank and get the second one out for you regardless of who's counting anyway, so it wouldn't really save a lot of time. But you have to be playing against a kind of quick player, I suppose. Cam's clarifying what they did in Australia. 1 mat for singles, 2 mats for team play.
So it looks like Ernie's kind of coming back in that game. It's 7-6 now.
Ernie's playing against Rory Riege down there on the far end.
Yeah.
Beside that, we've got Terry O'Neill up 3-zip over Gary Boutineau. Fran and Jan are still having a battle. I can see that Fran's at 18. Can't quite see what Jan's at, though. 19.
19,
so,
okay.
So Jan's up 1. And Pat Bird, clutch. Clutch.
Yeah.
Kev saying maybe I should have played with 2 mats and I'd be there. LOL.
Christie with his last ball.
Oh. Ooh. I think that's 1 or 2 there for Pat. I think it's just 1.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Another question from Roger Smith. If you had a chance to play a singles game against anyone on the planet, who would that be? He says Alex Marshall because he's played with Ryan Bester before. Anyone on the planet to play a singles game against? For me, I would say Bester just because I played against him when I was about 10 years old. Got my butt handed to me back then too, and that was before he went to Australia. So I'd be tempted to play against him again now just to observe the difference in style, see how much he's come along since back when I was 10. I probably wouldn't expect to do very well depending on the green surface. If it's in Canada, I might have a chance, but probably not in Australia so much.
I'd probably have to say same person.
Yeah, I think everybody wants to play against the Master Blaster.
Yeah. Well, you hear, as juniors, we hear lots of stories and stuff, but I've never met him, so it'd be neat to just meet him and have a game.
So it's 18-7 here for Christie. He just needs 3. So any end could do this. This has been a very fast game. We're only at the hour 6 mark.
Pat with a great start there.
What a banger. So he brought the mat up again, not all the way to the hog, but up quite a pace. Although I was chirping that tactic not too long ago, clearly it's working for him. Kamler Friend says he wants to play me again for payback of the gold medal game I beat him in way back when in juniors, I don't know, 2008 maybe? Well, Cam, if you come down to WOBA next year or the year after, I'll see you there. We can have a game. That's pretty much the only tournament I play in now, so that's your one and only chance.
You should ask Cam if he wants to play me again. Last time he played me in singles, I beat him 21-0. See if he remembers that match.
Cam, I'm surprised you don't want to play John again. Last time you played him was juniors many years ago, 21-0.
Wasn't that the story with the scorecard?
Yeah.
You were telling me about? Yeah.
I kept the scorecard and Michael kept bringing it. Showed it to him like 5 years later.
Pat with a very fortuitous bounce to get a good position into that. I think Christie needs some position here. Not sure if you can go for that shot right away.
I think he's in the area.
He's close.
Oh, look at that.
Just chipped it and still down one. So Pat's been playing pretty much one hand the entire game. Do you think he's going to switch? Fran threw a drive next door. Fran and Jan are tied up 19 all.
It looks like he's going to switch.
He is switching hands here. I'm shocked. He's been reluctant to come in the other direction. But it is pretty wide open out there. Some fresh grass.
Yeah.
And it shows.
Christie's going to play the same hand.
Yeah, Christie's following suit. That was very quick for Christie to just deliver his bowl and pick the mat in almost the same motion.
Yeah.
And wow.
Right in there.
Wow.
Yeah. Great bowl.
Mr. Christie. $19.7. So Christie's actually got the mat up a little bit too, so I think he liked it up almost where Pat had it. Interesting. Can't be.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. There could be some. It's softer at that end. No, that's probably exactly what they're doing then.
Just avoiding the divots at the back. Fair enough.
Yep.
Fair enough. Question from Roger: how important is the first bowl? I say supremely.
Yes, very important. Set the tone for the whole end.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't know how to give a better answer or a more definitive answer on that. Arguably the most important.
Two bowls are most important singles. First bowl and last bowl.
Yeah, first and last are the two most important. Another Albertan tuning in, Francis Standen. Aussie turned Canadian. Should singles be an open event again? Interesting question. So, for the past 5 years when it was open, entries were kind of down. Women only had around 13 or so. So by sort of closing it off, we're up to 24 again, which is really nice. But not only that, but the quality of players is far, far better here than what it's been in the past several years. That being said, singles was a separate event in the past, whereas here now it's right after the majors. So I could see the argument being made to open it up again just because it's right after the majors. But as soon as it's an open event, it starts to turn very local. And you start to have a lot of local players showing up just because it's in their backyard. And kind of decreases the quality of the event. You'll start to find a few less than ideal pools. You start to get a lot of blowouts, and that's not necessarily what you want to see at a national championship all the time. But I can see the argument for it. But I'm a big fan of having it closed off just because there's a lot more quality games, a lot more quality opponents here, and that's sort of shown in the first round. There was a lot of 21-17, 21-18 type games. A lot of games were close in the first round, which I'm not going to lie, I wasn't expecting them to take so long or to be so close in the first round, but it's good to see. Good quality games.
Yep. So
Pat's in a bit of trouble here.
Yeah, I don't think the Christie's front bowl is in.
Don't think so, but
and on the rink beside them there, let's see what Pat does.
Ooh, it is now.
That's not.
It is now.
That's not what he wanted to happen at all. But on the rink beside here, looks like Fran got one for sure, I think.
So they're calling an umpire to measure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Measure for the game next door between Fran and Jan. Ooh. Christie.
Yep.
Clutch position. What do you do now if you're Pat Bird? You can't give up a 2 or a 3 because that's the game. Live by the sword, die by the sword. Do you throw a drive at this? Or do you try to draw it off?
Yeah, I don't know. It looks...
He's down 3, but Christie only needs 2 to win the game. So you can't give up 2. The most you can give up is 1.
Yeah.
Not sure what I'd do in this. I think I'd be tempted to drive again since that's what he just did. That being said, it's not a big target. It's not like it's a pile.
Exactly.
There's a lot of holes.
Quite a few holes there, yeah.
You could easily just pick 1 and still be down 2.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's going for it.
He is. I'd have to think he's going for the jack.
Oh, and he got it too.
Wonder if I can replay that. Boom. I'm not sure if that's exactly how he planned on doing it, but what a way to do it. Not sure if I can replay that again a second time. Nah, a little bit too late.
Yeah, I like the new system.
Yeah,
it's
new
pretty
tech.
slick.
New tech is pretty sick. Big fan. Thank you, Choil, for upgrading. SportsCanada.tv. So Christie actually was on the spot just a little bit closer than Pat. So Christie still got one out of that. Wow.
Good shot from Pat, though. I mean, that's all.
Yeah, that's a heck of a shot. Good result out of it anyway. So 20-7, do or die now.
Yeah, but I mean that last point can always be the hardest one to get.
Roger asked us in the first round if we'd ever got to 20 and lost. So we'll see if Christie does that here. Coming up short. Room there for Pat, but he's in a good line for it. That could almost be a nuisance bowl just because it's in his eye. And I think Pat's in the ditch again.
Yeah, I think so too. Yep.
Just really struggling with his weight coming this way when the jack's on the tee. And Christie's just chunked his first one in.
Yep.
Pat's just laughing. What a strategy. You know, it's funny that during the team games, almost all of the games that we streamed, respot didn't come into effect at all. Nobody threw a drive. Jack never went out of bounds. I think there was one and maybe two at most. And in this game, we've seen one already. In singles, it's clearly much more of a factor.
Yep.
And Pat's in the ditch again there. Just really struggling with his weight.
Okay. Okay.
So if you're Christie, you just need one to tie. He's still just chunking that bull into the head. That bull that was like 10 feet short is now 2 feet behind the jack. What a strategy. So tricky here for Pat. His first two he threw into the ditch. You only have foot and a bit to draw it off. You have to count here or else the game's over. And I think he still threw. Yeah. I'm not sure if he was going for the jack or the bull on that. He might have been. That might have been some nice swinger weight.
I don't know. It's tough because you're not going to get very close to that jack without rolling in. So if you could find one of the bowls.
Christie's in a really weird position here. Like, what do you do with that fourth bowl? You're lying three. Pat doesn't have a bowl in the green. Like, what do you do? You're lying game. Just huck to guard. And I think Pat's going for the jack or bull again.
Nope.
And just didn't want to finish.
Nope.
Took off some weight there, gave it a chance. So that'll be the game. Christy Grahame taking it 21-7.
Yep. You could tell Pat was expecting the bowl to do something, and it just didn't look like it was doing it about 2/3 up the green.
Just didn't want to come back in time.
Yeah.
So that's the game, 21-7 Christy Grahame. So we're going to take a very, very short break here as we will be streaming the next round as well, which is going to be between Harriet Patuli and Rainbow Lung. So 5-minute coffee break, and we'll be back live. Thanks for commentating with me, Brandon. Greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks a lot, Jake.